What's good, guys? It's Monk here. So you might notice straight away that we're on a new monitor. I've got a monitor that's more landscape, just wider. So hopefully it's a bigger screen. So hopefully that means we're going to be able to fit more on the screen. I didn't like before with my previous videos how we always have black down the sides, because of the laptop screen being quite small. So now we're using this external monitor, which is hopefully going to improve the quality of the video somewhat. But today what we're going to do is going through the plugin from XLN Audio, is that right? RC20, the RC20, XLN Audio RC20 Retro Color. So this plugin is pretty popular with like the lo-fi and hip-hop community and stuff. What it's essentially doing is giving like you're adding character to your sample. Like if you've got a sample and you want to make it a bit more unique and you want to sort of change the flavor of it somewhat, RC20 is a multi-effects plugin that can help you do that, and it sort of specializes in making samples sound like older than they are, like giving them a retro feel, making them sound as if you've sampled them off a vinyl, or maybe an old vinyl. Even if you haven't, and you got some like options to give it some of that analog kind of color. So what we're going to do is go through it. I've got this little like a jazzy sample that I found on Splice. We'll listen to that first. So that's pretty nice. And I picked this sample because it's the kind of sample that I suppose RC20 has made to go on like that kind of very laid-back jazz style that is so useful for sampling when it comes to making like hip-hop and lo-fi beats and things. So this is the plugin here that we're looking at. Across the top you got like a preset menu, presets that come with it, and then you've got a user menu. The reason I'm doing this video at the time of making this, I've only just got this plugin. I managed to grab it on sale. I've had my eye on it for a while, but they just recently did like a 40% off sale, so I managed to grab it, which is good. Magnitude, which I'm assuming up here is just going to be a dry and wet thing. And then like I say, presets. And down the bottom you've got like EQ, so you can do like a low cut or a high cut. Pretty basic there. This tone knob, it says when you're over it, turning the tone clockwise means the high end, more high end, and less low end, and then vice versa. So so that's just to help with the tone, which is essentially like a filtering EQ thing. You've got a width knob, and we've got a gain in and a gain out down the bottom. So that's all the sort of like what would you say? The less exciting stuff, just the additional key features. And then what the plugin's all about is it's a set of multi-effects. So we've got noise, wobble, distortion, digital, space, and magnetic. So we'll start from left and we'll go from left to right, and we'll go through each one of them and what they do. So the first one, noise, that's just going to be adding some white noise. It's essentially like an audio layer that it's going to put behind your sample. So when you turn it on, it comes on like this, and you have some different options. Up here you have the different kinds of noise that it offers. So we've got like, if we want some tape hiss, cassette tape, like tape as in like saturation tape, vinyl, studio ambience, white noise, pinkish noise, 8-bit computer. That sounds interesting. Let's have a listen. So like 8-bit noise thing. Usually you'd probably want just some vinyl in there, I suppose. Yeah. That's nice. Tone is again just going to be like an EQ thing, making it brighter or darker. It's just filtering basically. What does the follow do? Okay, so follow is going to mean that the noise is going to react to the audio level volume. So when your volume goes like higher, the vinyl noise is going to go higher. By the same token, you've got the duck option here, and ducking is where it's going to, like, when the noise gets louder, it's going to duck the white noise out of the way, to make sure you've always got room for your original sound. So we've got some noise in there. I think I might keep with the vinyl. So next up, we've then got wobble. Wobble is going to emulate, like, over time, like when a vinyl ages, gets old, they get a bit warped, especially if they've been left in the sun or in like warm temperatures or anything like that. The shape of them can slightly change, which then means you get sort of inconsistencies in the pitch and the speed of the vinyl. So by adding this, like these wow and flutter effects, we can sort of emulate that and make it sound as if we'd sampled it off like a really old vinyl. So let's have a listen to that. So we've obviously, basically you've got the wow on this end and the flutter on this end, and you can control the rate of those two things separately and set your bar sort of like however much in between the two effects you want. We'll listen to the wow on 100. So you can hear that's basically modulating the pitch up and down. And then we'll listen to flutter on 100. And that's that. And then we've also got this flux option along the bottom, which seems to be along the bottom of all of them. Let's just listen to what that's doing. I'm not actually sure what that's doing. I'm going to have to look that up. So what I just had to look up is the flux option that you have that goes along the bottom of each of the effect parameters. According to their website, I'm on Plugin Boutique at the moment, their flux engine adds subtle or not so subtle instability and fluctuations to all of the effects modules, providing the character, warmth and analog goodness of yesteryear's best technology. So essentially it's going to add more analog character to it, like inconsistencies in what it's doing, as if it was like circuitry, rather than, you know, digital ones and twos. Right, and then so we've got some wobble on there. We also have this mix, the mix knob, so, you know, dry and wet. That's pretty cool if we double it up. So what we've done there is basically parallel processing, where we've got the signal that's being affected by the wobble and the dry signal too, in a combination that's actually giving us this like really weird, almost like stereo effect. So next is distortion. We should know what distortion is. If you don't, I actually did a video on the difference between distortion, saturation and overdrive. I'll leave that linked below if you want to check it out, because that kind of explains what distortion's doing. We'll add a bit of distortion to the signal and see what it's saying. In here we have like different types of distortion we can try out. The focus slider is going to determine what area of the frequency spectrum we're distorting. You've also got this focus slider on the next two as well. So, you know, you could just distort the low end, or we could just distort the high end or the whole signal, or whatever, dial that in how we like. You've obviously got a mix knob again for the dry and wet. Let's have a listen. So maybe that one, and then bring the dry back in so we have it in parallel. Nice. And then digital is distortion again, but this is digital distortion. So what this is actually is like a bit crusher, basically. So again, we've got the focus for what area of the frequency spectrum, and then we've got this smooth knob as well, which is really nice just to like smoothen it out a bit and de-harsh it somewhat, because a bit crusher can be pretty intense. So I'll just show you what I mean first by putting some on. Yeah, we've got this slider between rate and bits at the top as well, which is affecting the signal. And then we'll bring the mix knob back a bit. And add some smoothing. Cool. And then next up is space, which is a little reverb in here. What we've got in here is just a decay slider, so that's the time that it takes for the reverb tail to fade out, you know, from the initial reverb to silence. We've got a pre-delay, which is just allowing us to have some time between the initial sound and the reverb. So like by having that a few milliseconds, that can kind of emulate when you're in a big room and you wait for the reverb to reflect off the walls and come back to you. Stereo, just to like enhance the widening. And then we've got the focus again for the frequency. With reverbs, I recommend EQing out the low end. You don't necessarily want reverb on the low end of any signal. I always, if I have reverb on a send, I always have an EQ straight after that takes out everything below, like, I don't know, 100, 200 hertz or something. I'm just going to check that I said what I meant there. Yeah, about 100. Yeah, I'd probably have that. Sometimes that. Sometimes even that, if I want it particularly like bright, if I feel like there's muddiness going on, sometimes I take it up to 800. Reverb works best on the high end, but we'll listen to this and I'll show you what I mean. Nice. And then the final effects module here is then magnetic. So magnetic, it's essentially what it's going to do is emulate magnetic tape machines. And what it's doing is basically modulating the volume of your track to make it fluctuate, and it helps sort of like emulate the wear and tear of a vinyl or a tape machine. Whereas wobble, I suppose wobble is much more based off what happens to vinyl over time. Magnetic is based off what happens to like tape machines, like in studios over time. So the wobble is obviously going to modulate your pitch. So magnetic is going to modulate the volume or the amplitude of the signal. So we'll bring some of that, and you can see at the top we've got a slider between wear and flutter. So that's going to give us some slightly different effects depending on where that is. We have the stereo option to make it wide or not. And we have the rate, which is the speed of which it's automating the volume. And then we also have an option for dropouts to have little sections where the volume drops out completely, as it would if your tape was like really old. It depends how hard you want to go with this and how old you want your sample to sound, like how much you want to mess with it or how clean you want it. So we'll have a play with it, see what it sounds like. And then when I add some of this flux to some of these parameters again as well, just to give it more of them analog inconsistencies. And now you can see that we've really messed with this piece of audio. We've created like something that now sounds like very old, like it comes from a really gnarly like old tape or vinyl. And that's basically what RC20 does and what RC20 is known for. It's probably the most popular plugin. There are other plugins that do this, but this is probably the most popular one of its kind, sort of the trendsetter for this idea of making stuff sound really old. So we'll just do an A and B comparison. I'll like turn the plugin off so you can hear what the original sample sounded like again. And then with everything we've added. So you can hear that we've just added like so much colour and so much character to this sample that did before sound quite dry. It was like, it's a really nice jazz sample, but like we've just added so much more sonic interest to it now, which gives it such more of a unique sound. And like by playing with this and by finding the settings that you like, you can sort of help to put your own kind of flavour and your own taste into whatever sample that you're using. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully if you haven't heard of RC20, now you have, now you know what it does. I'll leave it links below if you want to go grab it. And yeah, hopefully that video was interesting or useful. If there's anything I missed or if there's any questions you have, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to everyone when I can. Drop a like and subscribe to help all the algorithms and everything like that. Really appreciate it, helps me out. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.